the complexity of identity has become increasingly apparent. Each of us is influenced by various factors, including culture, societal expectations, and personal experiences. This complexity not only shapes our outward appearance but also profoundly impacts our inner world. The rise of social media, especially the carefully curated and filtered, perfect images, often leaves us questioning our own sense of self. You might find that the version of yourself displayed on social media is vastly different from your true self. This conflict brings not only psychological pressure but also affects how we interact socially. Imagine this: have you ever seen a picture-perfect moment on social media and felt a pang of self-doubt? This kind of comparison isn't just about external appearances, it's a challenge to our inner sense of identity. The meticulously edited photos and life snapshots on social media starkly contrast with the imperfections of real life, subtly pulling us into a spiral of self-doubt. This phenomenon doesn't just shape our self-perception, it has far-reaching implications for our relationships with others. Against this backdrop, Stoicism as a philosophical approach offers a unique perspective to transcend label-oriented thinking. Stoicism emphasizes reason, natural law, and the commonality of humanity. These core principles help us recognize the shared qualities between ourselves and others, allowing us to rise above societal labels and judgments. Through this philosophical lens, we can learn to maintain inner peace and steadfastness amidst the storm of label-based thinking. The primary goal of this discussion is to explore how Stoicism can help us break free from label-oriented thinking and foster a universal sense of human identity. We'll delve into the social roots of label-based thinking, the Stoic critique of this mindset, how we internalize and overcome these labels, and practical steps to transcend label-based thinking to build a universal sense of human identity. Don't close this video just yet. There are thought-provoking questions ahead that will guide you on a deeper exploration of self-awareness. Now, let's embark on this philosophical journey together, discovering how Stoic wisdom can help us navigate the challenges of the present. Stoicism, as an ancient philosophy, is fundamentally grounded in reason. It advocates that humans should guide their actions by understanding natural laws and universal human nature. The Stoic critique of labeling goes beyond a mere philosophical analysis, it is a profound awakening of our inner wisdom. First, Stoicism regards reason as humanity's most valuable asset. Reason not only helps us comprehend the laws that govern the world but also allows us to transcend the limitations of our senses and emotions to perceive the essence of things. From a Stoic perspective, labeling is a consequence of a lack of rational thought. When we label others, we attempt to quickly and simplistically understand individuals or groups, overlooking their complexity and diversity. This approach not only weakens our judgment but also fosters prejudice and misunderstanding. Stoicism reminds us to always maintain rationality, avoid being deceived by outward appearances, and refuse to define others by simple labels. Instead, we should strive to uncover the true nature of things through deep understanding and rational thought. Next, universal human nature is another core tenet of Stoicism. The Stoics believed that regardless of our background, culture, or social status, all people share the same human nature. We all have the same emotions, needs, and desires for happiness. Labeling, however, imposes external definitions on individuals, disregarding this shared human nature. Through labeling, we divide people into different groups, creating opposition and even exclusion, which is contrary to the Stoic ideal of universal human nature. Stoicism encourages us to transcend these artificial boundaries and recognize the basic qualities that all humans share, thereby promoting understanding and inclusivity. Stoicism also exposes the limitations of labeling. Labels not only limit our understanding of others but also hinder our self-awareness. When we accept the labels society places on us, we often unconsciously confine ourselves to certain roles or identities, losing the opportunity to explore and develop other potentials. For instance, someone labeled as a failure might lose confidence, believe they cannot succeed, and thus give up on effort and ambition. Stoicism, however, emphasizes that everyone has the capacity for change and growth. We should not be defined by external labels but should instead use reason and self-reflection to rediscover our inner value and potential. Moreover, the Stoic approach to emotional control provides a practical way to transcend labeling. In labeling, we are often driven by emotions to make quick judgments and categorizations of others. Stoic philosophy teaches us to maintain calmness and objectivity by controlling our emotions, thus avoiding the influence of labels. For example, when confronting someone with a different viewpoint, emotions might lead us to quickly categorize them as an opponent or someone who doesn't understand us. However, if we can remain rational and control our emotions, we can better understand the other person's perspective and engage in constructive dialogue, rather than falling into the trap of labeling. Lastly, the Stoic concept of inner freedom is crucial in countering labeling. The Stoics believe that true freedom is not external but internal. It lies in mastering our own minds. No matter how society labels or judges us, we can maintain a clear and independent understanding of ourselves through our internal reason and wisdom. While labeling seeks to define individuals by external standards, Stoicism encourages us to achieve genuine personal growth and self-realization by embracing inner freedom and self-mastery, thus freeing ourselves from external constraints. In conclusion, Stoicism offers a philosophical pathway to transcend labeling by emphasizing reason, universal human nature, emotional control, and inner freedom. It helps us recognize the limitations of labeling while guiding us toward overcoming these constraints. Through Stoic teachings, we can reevaluate ourselves and others, move beyond narrow labeling, and pursue a higher level of personal growth and social harmony. Labeling thought not only impacts society and culture but also deeply permeates our personal psychology and daily lives. For many, labeling thought unconsciously becomes part of their self-perception. We have all been influenced by external labels to some extent, and we often internalize these labels into our own self-evaluations and expectations. However, Stoicism offers a clear path to help us recognize and overcome these internalized labels, enabling us to achieve true self-recognition and growth. Firstly, labeling thought often begins to take root in us at a very young age. Families, schools, and society frequently categorize and evaluate us as we grow. For example, labels such as smart versus clumsy, or obedient versus rebellious, gradually form our initial self-identity. When we are indoctrinated with these labels during our development, we easily come to see them as part of our self-image and unconsciously internalize them as the basis for our self-perception. This internalized labeling thought can profoundly influence our behavior and decisions throughout our lives. However, these internalized labels do not fully reflect our true selves. They are merely simplified societal judgments of certain behaviors or traits. Stoic philosophy tells us that our true selves are far more complex and rich than these labels suggest. Through rational reflection, we can identify these internalized labels, question their validity, and begin to explore our inner complexity and potential. For example, someone who considers themselves introverted might avoid social activities. However, through Stoic self-examination, they can realize that this introversion is just a manner of expression and does not completely define their abilities or worth. They can choose to explore new social experiences with rationality and courage, breaking free from this internalized label and developing a more diverse self. Secondly, internalized labeling thought also affects our emotional responses and behavioral patterns. We often limit our actions or even hinder our self-realization because of certain internalized labels. For instance, someone labeled as a failure might experience deep self-doubt, believing they are incapable of handling challenges or tasks, and therefore choose to retreat or give up when faced with difficulties. This internalized labeling thought not only diminishes personal confidence but also restricts their potential for development. Stoicism, through rational reflection and self-examination, helps us identify and challenge these internalized labels. Stoic philosophers emphasize that everyone has limitless potential for growth, which is not constrained by external labels. Through daily self-reflection, we can gradually shed the constraints of these labels, uncover our inner strength and wisdom, and pursue higher goals. Stoicism also offers specific methods to help us recognize and overcome internalized labeling thought in daily life. Daily self-examination is one of the important practices of Stoic philosophy. By reflecting on our actions, emotions, and thought patterns each day, we can more clearly see which behaviors or emotional responses are triggered by labeling thought. This process helps us understand the impact of internalized labels on our self-perception and encourages us to make more rational and authentic decisions in similar situations. In addition to self-examination, rational judgment is a key tool in Stoicism for overcoming labeling thought. Stoic philosophy emphasizes that reason is humanity's most precious gift, allowing us to see beyond appearances and understand the essence of things. Through reason, we can analyze whether these internalized labels are accurate and whether they truly define our entirety. For example, when we face failure, we might automatically think of ourselves as not good enough or never going to succeed. But through Stoic rational thinking, we can question these negative internalized labels, recognizing that failure is merely part of the growth process and should not be the sole standard for self-evaluation. By using rational judgment, we can gradually free ourselves from these negative labels and reshape a more positive and authentic self-image. Specifically, Stoicism advocates using a method of recording internal conflicts to analyze and understand our emotional responses when facing challenges. This method helps us better identify which emotional reactions are influenced by internalized labels, allowing us to handle these emotions more rationally. For example, when we receive criticism at work, the internalized failure label might make us feel deeply discouraged and self-defeating. However, through Stoic recording and analysis methods, we can recognize that this emotional response does not reflect our true self but is merely a result of internalized labels. This process enables us to view criticism more rationally, seeing it as an opportunity for improvement rather than a negation of our personal value. Additionally, setting rational goals is another Stoic practice for overcoming internalized labels. By setting realistic goals that align with our abilities, we can gradually overcome the limitations imposed by internalized labels. For instance, someone once considered not smart enough can set small, achievable learning goals to gradually enhance their knowledge and skills, eventually breaking free from this internalized label and demonstrating greater potential and capability. Through this approach, Stoicism helps us redefine ourselves, escape the constraints of external labels, and achieve higher levels of personal development. In summary, Stoicism provides a wealth of practical tools to help us recognize and overcome internalized labeling thought. Through rational self-examination and judgment, we can gradually free ourselves from these labels' constraints, discovering our inner potential and strength. Stoic philosophy is not only a system of thought but also a practical guide, helping us achieve true self-recognition and personal growth in daily life. With Stoic guidance, we can move beyond the confines of labeling thought, pursue a richer and more diverse self, and realize inner freedom and true happiness. In daily life, label-based thinking subtly influences our behavior and perception. Whether through others' judgments or self-imposed limitations, we often unconsciously internalize external labels as part of our self-concept. For instance, when repeatedly labeled as introverted or extroverted, we might begin to believe that we can only exhibit certain behaviors in specific social situations, thereby restricting our potential for exploration and growth. However, Stoicism offers effective methods for overcoming such internalized labels. Stoic philosophy emphasizes recognizing and transcending these internalized labels through rational thought and self-reflection. One crucial tool is daily self-examination. By reflecting on our actions and emotions throughout the day, we can more clearly see which behaviors are driven by external labels and which stem from our genuine inner desires. When we become aware of the constraints that labels impose on us, we can make more conscious adjustments. Rational judgment is another core method in Stoicism for dealing with internalized labels. Stoic philosophers argue that we should remain clear-headed and rational, analyzing whether these internalized labels truly reflect our essence. For example, when we feel we cannot accomplish something, we can use rational judgment to ask ourselves, what is the root of this thought? Is it based on a fear of failure or an underestimation of our own abilities? By breaking down these internalized labels in this way, we can gradually develop a clearer and more accurate self-perception. Additionally, Stoicism advocates specific techniques to help individuals effectively practice self-examination and rational judgment. For example, recording inner conflicts can aid in understanding one's emotions and responses. When we experience negative emotions or confusion, we can write them down and reflect on their underlying causes and motivations. This practice not only helps in identifying internalized labels but also supports making more rational decisions in similar situations. Setting rational goals is another practical method. Stoic philosophy encourages setting goals that align with rational principles rather than being swayed by external labels. By establishing these goals, we can move forward more confidently towards self-fulfillment, free from the constraints of internalized limitations. Finally, Stoicism promotes analyzing emotional responses to break free from label-based thinking. When facing challenges or difficulties, emotions often act as catalysts for our internalized labels. Stoic philosophers suggest using rational thought to analyze these emotional responses, identifying any irrational elements, and responding with calm and reason. This approach allows us to better manage our emotions and avoid being controlled by external labels, achieving genuine self-breakthrough. Through these methods, we can not only identify and transcend internalized labels but also gain a deeper understanding of ourselves, building a stronger internal resilience. In modern society, this resilience is particularly important as it helps us maintain inner peace and determination in an environment filled with pressure and label-based thinking, ultimately becoming the masters of our own destiny. Next, we will explore how to use Stoic methods to overcome label-based thinking in daily life and build a universal sense of human identity. In modern society, transcending labeling thinking is not only crucial for personal growth but also an important step towards establishing universal human identity. Stoicism provides us with practical methods to break through narrow, label-based perceptions and move towards a broader mental landscape. First, let's discuss the Stoic concept of premeditatio malorum, or premeditation of difficulties. In Stoic philosophy, this practice encourages us to anticipate potential challenges and obstacles before facing them. The goal is not to induce anxiety but to mentally prepare ourselves so that we can approach real problems with greater calm and rationality. In the context of labeling thinking, premeditatio malorum helps us better recognize and address external labels that might limit our perceptions. For example, when entering a new social environment, we can anticipate possible stereotypes or biases and develop strategies to handle these challenges. By doing so, we can manage our emotions more effectively and avoid being swayed by external labels. Another benefit of premeditatio malorum is that it fosters a proactive mindset. By recognizing the limitations imposed by labeling thinking, we can take active steps to overcome these constraints. This proactive approach not only supports personal growth but also advances societal progress by encouraging a more open and inclusive attitude toward others, rejecting simplistic labels that fail to capture the complexity of human nature. Next, the Stoic principle of overcoming the self is also a crucial pathway to transcending labeling thinking. Overcoming the self involves confronting inner fears and challenges, breaking through psychological barriers created by labeling thinking. In daily life, labeling thinking often leads us to fear certain situations or tasks, believing we are incapable or unworthy of trying. These fears are driven by internalized labels that restrict our actions and hinder our growth. Stoicism encourages us to use self-reflection and psychological exercises to overcome these fears. Meditation is a common Stoic practice that allows us to delve into our inner world, identify irrational fears and self-imposed limits, and address them through rational analysis. Psychological exercises involve consciously facing situations that make us uneasy or fearful, gradually building our mental resilience. Additionally, Stoicism advocates for setting rational goals to overcome self-imposed limits. By recognizing that our actions and decisions are constrained by internalized labels, we can redefine our life direction with goals that align with our true desires and rational principles. Such goals not only help us move beyond the shadows of labeling thinking but also motivate us to continuously push beyond our limits and achieve higher levels of personal development. Finally, the Stoic concept of oikeiosis or social responsibility offers a practical path to transcending labeling thinking and building universal human identity. Oikeiosis emphasizes the sense of responsibility and care for others, extending beyond family and friends to a broader societal and global context. By fulfilling our social responsibilities, we can transcend narrow identity definitions, focus on universal human traits, and contribute to societal harmony and progress. In practice, the principle of oikeiosis can be embodied through active participation in social activities. For example, engaging in volunteer work, supporting disadvantaged groups, or advocating for social progress are ways to broaden our perspectives, recognize commonalities among humanity, and strengthen our sense of social responsibility. These actions enhance our understanding and acceptance of others, fostering a more inclusive and compassionate worldview. In summary, through premeditatio malorum, overcoming the self, and embracing social responsibility, Stoicism offers a clear practical path to transcending labeling thinking and building a universal human identity. This transcendence not only pertains to personal growth but also to societal advancement. By adhering to these practices, we can gradually shed the constraints of labeling thinking and move towards a more liberated and fulfilling life. The Stoic practices not only help us overcome the limitations of labeled thinking but also provide a solid foundation for building a universal human connection. Through these practices, we can reevaluate ourselves and others, move beyond narrow identity definitions, and establish more inclusive and harmonious social relationships. The core of Stoicism lies in rationality and self-discipline, which are crucial tools for overcoming labeled thinking. When facing complex social environments, rationality helps us see the essence of things and avoid being misled by superficial labels and biases. Stoic rational thinking is not merely cold logical reasoning but a profound understanding of human nature and the world. It teaches us that everyone has intrinsic value, which transcends any external identity or label. With this rational perspective, we can treat others more fairly and are less likely to be swayed by stereotypes. Rationality allows us to see that human nature is complex and multifaceted, and every individual's actions have underlying reasons and motives. When we approach others with rationality and empathy, we are better able to escape narrow labeled thinking, thus building more authentic and meaningful interpersonal relationships. Self-discipline is another key principle of Stoicism that helps us remain calm and composed in the face of labeled thinking. Self-discipline does not mean suppressing oneself but rather controlling emotions and behaviors to maintain inner balance amidst various challenges. Under the influence of labeled thinking, we may feel anger, anxiety, or insecurity, but Stoicism teaches us that these emotions can be managed through self-discipline. Through daily self-discipline practices, we can gradually build resilience against labeled thinking. For instance, when we feel troubled by external labels, we can calm our emotions through deep breathing, meditation, or journaling and reassess whether these labels truly reflect our inner value. Such self-discipline training helps us better control our emotions and develop a stronger mental fortitude, enabling us to handle various challenges with composure. Stoicism also emphasizes a higher level of self-recognition that transcends all external labels, reaching our core essence. Stoic philosophy holds that the true self surpasses any external identity or role, embodying our rationality, virtue, and inner value. Recognizing this allows us to transcend external labels and identities, achieving a more pure and complete self-awareness. This transcendence not only helps us face the world with greater confidence but also aids in understanding and accepting others. When we recognize the intrinsic value in everyone, we become more inclusive towards others' differences and reject defining them with simplistic labels. This Stoic principle benefits not only individuals but also has significant implications for societal development. In the process of building a universal human connection, the Stoic concept of transcending the self is especially crucial. It helps us see that despite differing backgrounds, experiences, and identities, we all share the same human essence. This essence transcends all cultural, religious, and social differences, representing our common human nature. Viewing the world from this perspective allows us to understand and accept others more deeply, fostering societal harmony and progress. In summary, Stoicism provides us with rich and profound tools to overcome labeled thinking and build a universal human connection in our daily lives. Through rationality, self-discipline, and a deep understanding of the self, we can shed narrow labels and identities, leading to a more free, complete, and fulfilling life. This transcendence benefits individual growth and has a far-reaching impact on societal progress. In today's society, issues of identity and the prevalence of label-based thinking often confine people within narrow definitions and expectations. Stoicism, with its profound and powerful philosophical principles, offers a perspective for transcending these constraints. By emphasizing reason, universal humanity, and moral principles, Stoicism provides a framework for individuals to break free from external labels, recognize the commonalities between themselves and others, and build more harmonious and inclusive social relationships. The value of universal human recognition lies in its ability to foster personal growth and self-transcendence, as well as to advance social understanding, cooperation, and progress. In a world full of divisions and conflicts, the universal human recognition advocated by Stoicism can serve as a unifying force, helping us move beyond the labels that divide people and towards a broader human community. In conclusion, I encourage you to apply Stoic methods in your daily life. Through reflection and rational examination, explore your inner self and identify the labels that limit your development. Let reason guide you in pursuing universal human recognition, overcoming the constraints of identity, and striving for a higher level of self-realization. You will find that adopting a broader perspective on yourself and others will grant you a stronger inner resilience, helping you navigate life's challenges and complex social interactions. Stoicism is not merely a philosophy but a way of life that directs us towards inner peace and rational clarity, allowing us to find our place in a complex world. Life is like a journey filled with various storms, but the wisdom of Stoicism will be your guide through these trials. May you discover your own light on the path of self-exploration and overcoming labels. Our discussion comes to a close here, but your journey with Stoicism is just beginning.